We are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show.
Hello, and welcome to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul.
I like your haircut.
Thanks.
I could tell on your
You got a
hair.
haircut too.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
No?
But thanks. The topic today on this Evolve to Win show is about the daily huddle. And it is such an amazing productivity tool that way too few companies are using or are using effectively. So we're just going to kind of go through and talk about what this daily huddle is all about. But before we talk about what it is, I want to talk about why you would do it. And Paul, you're such a huge fan of the daily huddle. I'm going to let you take the why. Why does someone want to do a daily huddle? What's the purpose?
The benefit of doing a daily huddle with your team is to make sure that everybody's on point, that you're all going in the same direction, that if there's any challenges that you're having, that you're talking about them up front in the beginning of the day instead of waiting till the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month. So it really keeps people on the same page. And I find it extremely beneficial just in our business alone because I like to know what I'm working on and that I'm aligned with you in our priorities. And so nothing drives me more crazy than when I'm working on something that isn't what I should be working on to help us move our business forward.
Yeah. Okay. So it really, really helps with productivity.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think it reduces conflict in a really big way, because when you think about how much conflict happens because of failure to communicate, communication is the culprit for most all conflict, if not all conflict. And so the fact that in this daily huddle, you are getting together with a specific team of people. It's not the whole team. In some cases, some companies will do that. They'll do an all staff, depends on the size of the company, obviously. But there's some designated number of team members that get together and they huddle. Now, I first learned about the daily huddle through Vern Harnish and through the book, The Rockefeller Habits. Mm-hmm. And so this was one of the habits that Rockefeller had that really made him as successful as he became.
And you know how it started? Because he worked with his brothers, and they would walk to the office every day. And they said that the best meetings that they had were the meeting in the morning when they were walking to work, and then the three of them. And then when they were walking back home, that second meeting kind of solidified everything that they had gone through the day before or that day. And so that's how the daily meetings or daily huddle started.
Got it. I did not remember that.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, let's talk about the what now. Let's talk about what this daily huddle actually looks like. And we're going to give, just from our experience, from what we've read, from what we've learned, what we've seen other companies do, we're going to give some tips about what you can do with this daily huddle. But before we jump in, I just want to say that if you've already got a daily huddle going and it's working extremely well, you may think about trying something different if we give you something different. But if it's working, you may just stick with it. And what we're giving you are suggestions. These are some tips about the huddle that we have found to be very successful. But there's no one perfect way to do a huddle, so you've got to really kind of figure out what works best for you and your organization and your team.
Yeah, and let me just add something too as far as the daily huddle. So if you're working in an organization and you currently have meetings all the time, that this daily huddle is really to eliminate a lot of those kind of extra meetings that are out there. So if you get everybody on the same page early, and we're going to talk about how long a daily huddle generally is. Mm-hmm. It's not a very long meeting. It's structured, and that hopefully what it does, it can eliminate a lot of the meetings that you're currently having. So if you are death by meeting right now in your organization, you may want to consider bringing this forward or implementing the daily huddle.
I saw a coffee cup on Amazon when I was doing some Christmas shopping that I actually really like. And it said something along the lines of, just attended another meeting that should have been an email. So if you really struggle with too many meetings, then you might really love the huddle. So first things first, let's talk about how long this huddle is. This huddle is designed to be a stand-up meeting. So it's not a sit down. If you sit down, you're going to get too comfortable. You might not even want to have your coffee with you because you don't want to be too comfortable, right? So it's a stand-up. It is a meeting that typically is scheduled every single day at the exact same time. Now, again, these are rules of thumb, but you may need to do it differently based on, who you are or what your industry is. If you can do an every single morning, first thing in the morning at a certain time before the doors open or before the phones start ringing, before people get on email, that's ideal. But the most important thing once you schedule the time of that meeting is that you've got commitment from all the different people who need to participate in that meeting, that they're going to go there and that they're going to be there on time.
Right.
So being there on time is critically important. Ending on time is critically important. We're going to give you a tip for how to make sure that happens.
So is it important to have somebody facilitating that? So in charge of running the daily huddles?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. There should be somebody. It's not necessarily the boss, and probably actually not the boss, but you want to find somebody who will keep the meeting running on time, somebody who will be diligent about starting on time, facilitating, and also letting people know if they're going off topic, if something needs to be tabled or taken, to a different meeting. There's going to be one person who you designate that's really going to help you start on time, end on time, and facilitate the flow.
Great.
Okay. All right. So another thing that you need to really look at is who needs to attend this meeting. And you don't want to have more than 2 daily huddles for any one given person. But those who are in leadership will most likely have 2, because they're going to have one with the leadership team, however that's defined in your organization. And then they're going to go back and they're going to have one with their team, their department. Mm-hmm. And so you shouldn't have more than 2. It's better to have less meetings with more people than it is to have more meetings. We do not want people out there to think that they need to have a whole bunch of extra meetings. So try to keep it to no more than 2 per person. So if you're struggling trying to figure out who the right people are to be in that meeting, just use that 2 as your target if you're in a leadership role, right? Anything else on who should attend?
Nope.
Okay. So how often should you run the meeting? Running the meeting should be daily, right? So it should be in every single day that business is open. And, for us, there are times where we've got commitments where we're either traveling or speaking or training where our typical huddle time is going to be completely rolled over. So it's really important that if you've got that sort of schedule where it's different every day, mm-hmm. that you want to make sure that you come to an agreement every day what the timing is for that huddle the next day. Just always looking at the calendar and making sure that the timing is secure.
Yeah, and these don't have to always be in person. I mean, obviously, if there's people that are in the car or they're traveling somewhere, or they can be on Zoom or Skype or whatever type of face-to-face meeting that you use, technology that you can use that as well. Mm-hmm. Ideally, it's best to be in person because there is that just mm-hmm. human interaction. But yeah, I mean, listen, the daily huddles are so critical to just keeping people communicating with each other. And I think as we go through some of the agenda that we'll be covering, that you'll see that it covers a lot of the things that, like we were talking about before, just eliminating more meetings. So meetings that you won't have to have because you're covering this and because you're doing it so frequently that it takes care of all of these meetings that you may be having weekly or monthly.
Yeah, it's really that meeting to get aligned, right? Mm-hmm. It's getting on the same page. It's knowing what the left hand is doing, what the right hand is doing. And so it's beyond valuable because half the time, if you and I weren't meeting, even though we work in this, we don't have the same office. We actually have an upstairs and a downstairs even because we need that distance, right? Yeah, but right. You'd think that I would know what you're doing and where you are all the time, and I don't unless we have those huddles. So that's why it's critical. Now let's talk about...
That's just 2 people. Imagine if you have a team of 5, 10, 15, mm-hmm. and...
Especially when you've got
different projects
I'm
doing on. Right.
You're relying upon my piece before you can do your piece, and there's the whole project management thing, and yeah, and look, there are so many other tools that help, the different softwares that you're using, but there's nothing that takes the place of this communication. And as you mentioned, doesn't have to be face-to-face. What's crazy is Paul and I will have more huddles using Zoom. Now, we're always face-to-face by video, but we like to have them each being in our own offices so that we can pull up whatever needs to be pulled up or looked at, and it's just really efficient for us. So we've sort of trained each other to do these meetings by Zoom, which is great because then when one of us are traveling, we don't skip a beat. We still just have the meeting just as we always would.
Yeah. So however it works for you, the best, depending on your situation, just find the way.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about what you go over in these meetings. And there's typically 3 things that are covered in these meetings. And different clients of ours, have played with this agenda, but we'll give you our top 3 that we do. First and foremost, we have an opportunity to check in where you just say, here's what's going on today. Here's what is my top things that I have to get done today, right? So it's really finding out if you've got a meeting that's happening, who's coming to the office, where are you going, what are the top priorities, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that's critical. And if you're trying to accomplish all of this in 15 minutes time, which is really the target, right? It's a 15-minute meeting or less if you can make it work. That what's going on for the day has got to be done in a very short period of time. So it does require just a little bit of prep work. So think about this. If every single person going into the meeting actually checked their schedule for the day and came prepared with their top 2 or 3 priorities of what was going on in the day, that's something that a lot of people aren't currently doing. And I don't know how you would get through a day without really identifying those priorities. If you're not identifying those priorities every day, you tend to be more reactionary and just being pulled into whatever's happening and whatever your environment tells you or dictates that you need to do. Okay, so that's one thing, is what's going on for the day. And the next thing is really looking at what are the daily measurements that we're looking at. What are our daily KPIs? KPI, by the way, stands for Key Performance Indicator. These are the activities that we're measuring that are producing the results that we're after. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've talked about this before on this show. You've got lead measures and lag measures. Lag measures are results. So something like revenue that you're tracking or sales that you're tracking. It's always a result, right, is a lag measure, but there's this activity, the key activities that actually get you to that result. That's the lead measure or the key performance indicator. So whatever it is that you're tracking and reporting on a daily basis, each person should have some metric that they're reporting on. And whether you're showing that in a visual, whether you're reporting it verbally, again, different companies do it different ways. If you're scratching your head right now saying we don't have daily metrics or KPIs and don't know what that means, that's a real opportunity. So really figuring out what is the activity that's driving the results that are the most important.
Yeah, I was working with a client this morning and we were talking about setting goals for 2019. The goal was for her was to get a certain amount of new clients in a particular program that she's running. But what she found, so that's the lag. So she came up with 40 new clients over 2019. But the lead measure for that is when she actually gets on the phone with a qualified person. So it's not every single lead that comes in, it's qualified leads. And then when she gets those qualified leads on the phone, then she measures her conversion rate. But that's the lead measure, is how many qualified people she gets on the phone. And hopefully then if she converts the right amount that she thinks she does, she'll be able to convert that 40 new people into clients of theirs. And so that's a lead. That's an example of a lead and a lag measure. The lead being the phone calls and lag being the total amount of new clients.
And the one thing we know about lead and lag measures is that you can control your lead measures. Yes. You can control how many of those phone calls you have. And if you're not getting the right results, you can increase your lead measures. That's why we're so focused on reporting the KPIs or the lead measures as that daily metric. So you're looking for the trends that are happening based on the metrics you're reporting. You're looking for what's working, what's not working. And as you report those daily, by the way, think about this. If everybody on your team had some input into those lead measures or those KPIs, we also know that whatever it is you're asking people to report on, That's what they
On a
focus
daily
on.
basis too.
Yeah, on a daily basis. So it's all good. And there's
So it's not at the end of
that
the month.
group accountability.
Yeah, but I
Right.
mean, on a daily basis, giving what is happening, what happened yesterday with your lead measures, and being able to track that. If you have several days in a row that nothing's happening or you're blowing it out of the water, you're at least being able to keep track of that. It's top of mind. It's helping everybody else understand. And the next step of this is asking for help, is really, what are your challenges?
Yeah, where are you stuck?
Yeah, where are you stuck? And where is it that somebody could potentially help you? And if you didn't have these daily meetings and you weren't very verbal about it and asking for help, which a lot of people generally don't like to do, this would be a problem.
So
but in daily
about,
huddles, it actually gives you the forum to be able to do that.
And you think about how many people are stuck because they're waiting on somebody else for something else. So they've gone as far as they can go, and then they're done because I'm waiting for Paul to get back to me on whatever.
Right.
So this
and
happens,
I got 20 other things going on.
Yeah. And Paul doesn't even know that I'm waiting on him necessarily, right? Maybe he's forgotten. So this stuck part of the conversation is critical, where every single person talks about what they have going on, where they're stuck, right? That's all this piece is for. So if you think about this 15-minute time frame, we've given you 3 different areas that we like to focus on. One is, what are the key priorities for the day? And these are, again, just the big picture. It is not pulling out your to-do list with 8,000 things. It's the top few things. Here's what's key for me today. It's the daily metrics. What are we reporting on that we're measuring that's really moving the needle? And then the third part, where am I stuck? And look, if you're not stuck, that's fabulous. But if you've got a timeline and you've got a deadline and you've got a project, and that project's not moving anywhere because you're waiting on someone else, this is the time to say that out loud. I can't tell you how many times we hear from clients that there's this major upset because deadlines are missed, and the deadlines are missed because one person is waiting on the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuck is a great one. Now, really, really important, when you talk about where you're stuck, you're not going to fix it in that room. That's not what this meeting is for. So the worst thing that can happen is you say, well, I'm stuck because I'm waiting for Paul to finish this piece of the project. And then he starts to dialogue with me about it. And now we're taking everyone else's time. That's not what it's for. If Paul needs to talk to me about that, now he knows where I'm stuck. And he says, I'll talk to you about that outside of the meeting, or let's have a call today at X time. So I think a really good rule of thumb is to just share the stuck, but don't try to fix it unless it can be handled in a statement, and just, move on, because you've only got 5 minutes for each of these 3 pieces of the conversation.
Right.
Right. So where are you stuck right now? Are you stuck on anything?
I don't know. We haven't had our daily meeting yet.
We haven't had our huddle yet.
So we're going to have it after this. But the main thing is with daily huddles is being persistent, consistent with the process, and having somebody that facilitates it. So if you're going to take this on, make sure that you put somebody in place that follows the rules, that can,
someone who's structured
that's
already.
structured, but also can have some influence to make sure when the people that they're showing up for this. So you may want to institute some type of, maybe a little fine for somebody if
One
they,
of our clients just did that.
if they don't show up, then they got to hit the kitty, with whatever amount, whatever you come up with. But it's important to have somebody that can drive the meetings to make sure you stay on schedule and to make them as productive as possible. But I think by implementing this, you'll find that your communication will open up to a place that you've never seen before. And I'm interested to find out if any of you who are listening right now have ever used a daily huddle. What are the advantages of it and what you found? Just, you can put that in the comments.
Yeah, share your feedback with us. If
please
you've
do.
got something else that you review on your daily huddles that we didn't mention, because again, different companies do them differently, please share that with us as well. So, one of the things that we've added to our huddle outside of these top 3, Paul and I always take a moment and we go through our calendar for the week and our calendar for the month, depending on when the huddle's happening. So we have a rhythm that we use where we're always looking forward, because it helps us to build our priorities for the day. So yeah, let us know if you're using them, what's working. The one thing that I can say across the board is every company that we have come across that is actually using the daily huddle finds it absolutely incredibly valuable. They'd never give it up. Anyone who's ever said that it's not valuable is because they don't have the rules of the game set up in a way where it's tight enough. It turns into, instead of a 15-minute stand-up, like an hour and a half long dialogue. Don't let your huddle bleed into another meeting.
Yeah, and one last thing on that is whoever's facilitating that, you just set the timer on your phone, so when that alarm goes off, you break. That's it, no matter what. So thank you for listening or watching another Evolve to Win show. We hope you have a great day.
Yeah, and please share your comments on the Daily Huddle with us. Let us know what works, what doesn't work. And if you haven't connected with us yet, please go to heatherchristie.com and sign up for our leadership list.